Good afternoon, everyone. So the webinar will start in a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. Let's wait 2 more minutes and then we start. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Chiara Trovatello, and I'm a postdoc at the Physics Department of Politecnico di Milano. And I'm also part of the OSA, EPS, and SPIE student chapters of our university. So the webinar is organized by PhD and postdocs of our physics department. So this is part of the people who have contributed to the organization of this event. As you can see from this map, we are one of many student chapters all around the world. And for those of you who are not familiar with student chapters, those are basically student associations. So made by PhD and postdocs and some master students sometimes. And the idea is to promote the generation and dissemination of science and physics in general. And specifically, we focus on optics and photonics. But the other mission of the student chapters is also to build a better scientific and human society. So we organize free events with 4 main core values, which are innovation, integrity, inclusivity, and impact. And the 4 keywords to describe our activity are basically networking, outreach, professional development, and seminars, webinars, and workshops. Networking because we try to connect with several other student chapters all around the world. and outreach because we learn to talk about science basically with everyone, not just with scientists. And professional development in the sense that we acquire new skills for our personal career advancement. And we organize seminars and webinars and also workshops to broaden our knowledge in all senses. So today we organized a webinar called Women in Science. So why do we need to talk about women in science? Despite the fact that it's 2021, we still are bombarded by a lot of news every day, which point towards still a big difference between women and men in terms of gender pay gap, in terms of leaky pipeline in the framework of the personal careers. And also many women are asked if they want to have babies. This, of course, sometimes is a bottleneck for their careers. And of course, this is illegal, but this is something that people actually don't really know. I mean, not everyone knows this is illegal. Asking this to a woman is illegal. And also, this is a news that focuses on Italian statistics. So in December, due to the pandemics from 2020, 100,000 workers have lost their job, and among this, 99,000 are women. So this data are really speechless, leave us really speechless. And of course, this is basically why we need to talk about this. And not just, this is not enough in the sense that also scientists, like male scientists, sometimes say, oh, physics, that's not something for women. And of course, this is upsetting from our side, from all sides, I would say. And that's why we need to talk about women in science. Of course, there are also some good news in the sense that people are starting realizing there is a big gap in between men and women. And for example, Volvo, which is a car company, will grant women and men parental leave for 6 months, which of course, this is really important because only if both parents have the same parental leave, we can guarantee equality in terms of work. And we have also news from 2 days ago, which is from Italy. So Chiara Carrozza is the first female president of CNR, which is the National Research Center. And even if it's 2021, this is still a big achievement in this sense. It's a sad achievement because she's the first one and it's 2021, but still this is something we wanted to share with you today. So yes, we need to share career paths and stories about women in science to promote equality in this direction. And today we have invited 4 outstanding women who have pursued their scientific career in technology and science. So let me introduce, first of all, I would like to thank Donatella, Roberta, Gabrielle, and Francesca for accepting our invitation today. So Donatella Sciuto she's a full professor here at Politecnico at the Computer Science Department, and she's also Executive Vice Rector of our university. Roberta is the director of CNR, the CNR of Milan, which is the Institute of Photonics and Nanotechnology, which is based here in Italy, in Milan. And Gabrielle works not in academia, but in industry, and she's the innovation ambassador of M2 Lasers, which is a company based in Berlin, in Germany. And Francesca, she's a full professor at the University of Hamburg in Germany, and she's also the leading scientist of the Attosecond division at DESY, the synchrotron in Hamburg. So we hope that sharing their experiences in science and technology would be of some inspiration for you as a scientist, as a human, and if you're not a human, as a supporter of women in science. Just to give some information, the webinar will be recorded because many people are busy with remote teaching, so they asked to record the webinar to watch it later on. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A box, which is right below the Zoom toolbar, and type your questions in the box. With this, I would like to thank you for joining us, and I will leave the stage to Donatella, who is going to present some data on gender balance in academia in Italy and Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, even though I'm not coming from a physics background. Thank you for having me. So basically what I will try to give you is an idea about the engineering sector, which is the one I know better, in Politecnico, in Italy and in general in Europe, even though European data from the website, from the European Commission website are not updated so very recently. If we consider Politecnico, the female presence among the student population of the Politecnico remains stable as in the last 10 years. And they represent a little bit more than 1/3 of the entire student population. However, there is a downside. So we have a two-speed approach. There has been a large increase in terms of gender, women participation in architecture and design, and now they represent the majority. On the other hand, in engineering, there is still a lot of work to do because only 23% of the women are at the bachelor level, while 27% represent the share of population of the students at master level. Sorry, Italian data at the national level in general, they do not separate, I mean, they put together engineering and technology, which includes, for example, biotechnologies, and they show 27% on average in Italy. So we are okay at the master level, we're still low at the bachelor level. But if we take a closer look, we note that the situation is very different even within the bachelor's degrees in engineering themselves. For example, in biomedical engineering, women outnumber the men, accounting for 56% of those enrolled. On the other hand, mechanical engineering, electronics, and computer engineering are less than 10% students at the bachelor level, a little bit better in the master level, while there are many others which are below 30%. In fact, in general, if we take the 44 courses in engineering, both bachelor and master level, 82% of these courses are at prevalence men, which means prevalence means that they have an average of more than 60%. I mean, they're between more than 50% men in their courses, while 18% are neutral. That means they have a range between 40 and 60% of gender. At the national level, in reality, this is we're still doing worse, because 75% of the courses in engineering and technology are 75% at prevalence men, 12% are prevalence women, and 13% are neutral. At the European level, there are no data which are comparable. The data range very differently, with a less than 20% for computer science and engineering that put them together at the European level, and less than 30% in general in engineering. If we look at the PhD level, then we have, let me say another thing. Even where girls are outnumbered, they do not lose confidence and prove to be more tenacious and persevering. This is confirmed by, in our case, by the withdrawals rates, which are less for the women, and in the graduation marks, which are a little bit better than those of their peers. The final step in the educational program is the PhD. At Politecnico, we have like 19 PhD programs, 14 in engineering, 4 in architecture, and 1 in design. And again, there is nothing different what we said with respect to the master and bachelor level. the percentage of women is below the national average. We have around 28% compared to 34% at the level in engineering and technology at the national level. At the EU level, in engineering, it's around 29%. In the STEM general fields, which includes other areas, at the European level, they are 37%. One of the lowest areas is ICT, which is a major concern due to the rapid digital transformation we have and the needs that we need of people skilled in that area, which is at the European level around 21%. In general, if you look at work, so in the workplace, the number of women in engineering are around 25%, more in STEM than in engineering, actually, STEM, so more general. So there is still a huge gender gap on that area. When we look at the academic level, so the academic careers, what we have seen at Politecnico is that in recent years, there has been an increased intake of women at the younger levels. So the research, the research level, so the assistant professor without tenure and with tenure. However, we're still around for the research for the assistant professor without tenure. So what we called in Italian ricercatore di tipo A, we have a 42% in general, while for the those with tenure already start to drop up to 33.6%. Associate professor are around 30% of the entire population of associate professor at Politecnico. And while the full professor had increased in the past 3 years, we are now at 24%, which is in line with the, say, the national level for all areas, which means that we are not doing so badly with respect to the national level. That includes also humanities and economics and so on. At the national level, if you consider only the STEM areas, it's 20%. So I think we're doing a better job. We have better women probably with respect to other universities. At the EU level, if you look at the STEM area, so in general, there is no specific data on engineering, they are at 15%, the number of full professors. So in that area, we are not doing too bad, but we're still very far from having an optimal situation. We also, in our gender budget, we compute also the glass ceiling index and the glass ceiling per department. And the glass ceiling index in all departments is above 1, which means that the percentage of women as full professor is less than the same percentage that we can obtain considering all the roles of the academia, which means that there is a glass ceiling effect. So it's more difficult for a woman to get to a higher position. There are only 3 departments which are in balance. One is the architecture and urban studies, one is energy, and the other one is design. But for the rest of the departments, there is still a gap to get to the same level of difficulty as men to get to the full professor position. So this gives you a rough idea of where we are. And so there is a lot of work to do, and we continue to do it at Politecnico, and I hope with the help also of the younger generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donatella, for sharing these numbers. It's very interesting to have a broad overview of what happens in Italy and also Europe. So Roberta, I would like to ask you to comment how in your perception, the presence of women in science is changing during time, and what do you see for the next future? Are you muted?
Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Indeed, the situation is changing and it's getting better. But I think the big issue is that we need really a change in our attitude, both from women and from men, not only from men. I mean, we all need to change our attitude. Society is changing, so let's say the framework for women is better today than it was in the past. But we need to be much more self-confident when approaching science. Science is a good topic for women, so we have somehow to feel normal studying science and working in science. And we need everybody to feel that it's normal to have women in science and successful women in science. So this is really the change of mentality, of attitude that we need to achieve. Of course, as I was telling before to you, I am very happy that we have now, for example, in CNR, a woman president. But it's a bit disappointing to have to say, oh, she's the first, so that's a great success. It should be normal.
Yeah.
So we really need to work in this direction. We have to make these things to keep happening, to grow in numbers, but we need to find them normal. And this is the big, and we have to work also on ourselves. Sometimes women just try to behave like men, to be accepted as scientists. This is not the way to go. We have to be ourselves, to be confident, that it is normal for us to be scientists, good scientists, and everybody has to accept this.
Yeah.
Of course, this will also help society to change, to give us more support, and all these kind of things. But the first issue is it must be normal.
Yeah, I agree. This shouldn't be a national news, let's say. It should be just, okay, we have she's the new president and that's it. But
yeah.
Of
she
course
was
now,
better than the other candidates, full stop.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, totally. Okay, thanks. So Gabrielle, what is science for you in one word?
This is a really tough thing to decide. So I had a few words in mind, but I would say if I had to choose one word, I would say science is curiosity.
Thanks. It's yeah, I agree. And Francesca, what is science for you in one word?
Yeah, I agree with Gabriele. It's really tough to find only one word, but for me, science is absolutely knowledge. Knowledge.
Thanks. Donatella, what about you?
For me, science, in addition to what they said, because obviously to build up on that, it's creativity.
Yeah, nice, thanks. And Roberta?
Well, let me add, of course, I agree with curiosity and creativity and knowledge. Let's say it can help us to make world better, to understand the world and make it better.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Which is more than one word, but they had already used the word, single word I had. So.
It's true. Sorry, you were the last of the round. Okay, so Roberta, would you like to tell us a story from the early scientific career? Something curious you wanna share with us?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you a story that helped me at the beginning, let's say, to feel normal as a scientist. It was when I went to my first conference. I had just been hired at CNR since a few months, less than 1 year. And I went to an international conference, an important one, and was with my mentor. And he was supposed to present our work at a plenary session. It was not an invited talk, but it was anyway a plenary session, few Nobel Prizes in the first rows. And he was asked to chair the session due to another person that was absent unexpectedly. And he decided that, well, it's not elegant that the chair also presents. So the day before, he told me, well, you are going to present the work. And of course, my first reaction was panic. And then, well, I was quite happy because I think I was a very rare young researchers who got the slides from the professor. Normally, it's just the normal. You prepare the slides and the professor presents, but it was just the opposite due to this situation. And well, of course, we discussed with him the content of the presentation. It was anyway the work that I was doing, so I felt quite confident, let's say, on the possibility of presenting well. But I must say that helped me. I mean, the presentation went well. I had questions. I received questions also from one of the Nobel Prizes, and I answered. So that gave me, let's say, the feeling that, okay, it's done, it's easy. And I think this is another aspect that we need to work on. We must feel it can be easy. It's just, as I said before, normal, easy. And this experience just helped me a lot because I was thrown in the arena at the very beginning and well, nothing happened. I mean, it was
like you were ready.
So that was, in the end, helped me also in the following. I mean, it's just a small episode, but that helped me to feel well in my role, let's say.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I mean, it's like if you were already, I don't know, ready for that job, and you were in the right place. Nice. Okay, thanks for sharing this interesting story. So you also got questions from a Nobel Prize, which is exciting itself. Yeah. Okay. Donatella, so I would like to ask something as a follow-up of what Roberta was saying, so that it's also something you said in an interview, that change has to start from women, not just from men. Let's say it has to start globally from everyone. So if you can comment on that, and in addition, if you can tell us something about your interest in inclusivity topics, since you're part of POP, which is an office of Politecnico, which takes care of gender balance in and also diversity and inclusion topic in our university.
Well, I've been always almost in my area of research, which was a small one with respect to the entire computer engineering, which was computer architecture and electronic design automation. I've been almost the only woman present there for many, many years. So I was always wondering why I was the only one there. And
also because computer science, I mean, it's less than 10%, you said. It's very few women, yeah.
Yes. And if you look at that area, is even less because it's a very specific area which requires it's less software, more hardware. You need to have both skill, I mean, both competences. I mean, I don't know. So, and I thought that maybe it was right for me also to show that this is not something magic, or this is not something that it's not for women. And so I think that the first thing is to be yourself a model, at least to tell the story and to try to show your passion on what you're doing, because maybe this will also make somebody follow your passion, or somebody younger follow your passion. There are no, in general, role models in the area of science, and especially in computer science. And we've seen also more recently that in Italy, for example, when Samantha Cristoforetti became an astronaut and became sort of famous also to the general public, then we have seen an increase in the number of students, girl students, registering for aerospace engineering. So there is a role in the fact that there is some visibility of women that do science and also a normal person. So we're not talking about Marie Curie, which was hundreds of years ago, but somebody who's living a normal life, but also is an engineer and is also doing science and also doing research. And what I also discovered when I started working for the rectorate, is that nobody was keeping track, even though we had a committee for equal opportunities. There was no idea of monitoring what was happening. So, and for me, if you want to plan something, first you need to have the data to decide what action needs to be taken, and then monitor what this action will actually produce and when it will produce it, and how much money you have to invest to do something or to make sure that we get to the parity. So I started alone first, started collecting the data, which was kind of complex because data were in different offices, they were not all together. And then I started also thinking of having somebody to help me, to find people that were interested in trying to figure out other actions or something which I was not thinking of, action to support the increase in the number of girls, but also in the academic career, what help we could provide. And this is why I actually created POP, which is the acronym of Pari Opportunità Politecnico, which means equal opportunities at Politecnico, with a group of other professors and also representative of the technical staff and human resources, in order to make a plan and define how to structure some actions to make sure that we gave the same opportunities to everybody. POP is not only on gender, obviously, but it also considers different abilities, different cultures, different sexual preferences. So to make sure that all people, independently of what were their differences, had the same opportunities at their own level. I mean, for students, PhD, staff, and professor. And so this is the way we started. And then we structured an office in 2020 inside the central administration, which now is the one that manages the actions that are defined.
Yeah, this is, well, first of all, thanks for telling us the story of POP. I think it's very important to represent all minorities. I mean, everyone in our societies, and this is crucial. And yeah, thanks for sharing this. So Gabrielle, you are the only one who works in industry and not in academia. So first of all, you're an innovation ambassador. So what is an innovation ambassador? Sorry for the questions. I really don't know. And second, why did you move to industry? Because you did a PhD, you were in academia, you were a postdoc, and then you left academia and you moved to industry. So the other thing that I want to ask you is if you can give us like a good side and a bad side, both from industry and academia.
These are all great questions. I'll try my best to answer them. First of all, I guess the killer question is, what is an innovation ambassador? And if I'm speaking from the inside and looking at what I do day to day, I would say it's very hard to define because I wear a lot of different hats. I do many, many different things. But if I were to step back and look from the outside and look in terms of what I do and what my ideal is of an innovation ambassador, I'd say it's somebody who really advocates for science and technology, somebody who has a general excitement for science, innovation, and technology, and who looks to find new applications of, I guess, cutting edge science in a kind of commercial context. So yeah, my day-to-day life is quite different. I would say no 2 days are ever really the same. But just to give you a little bit of a brief insight into what it is that I do, I spend a lot of time writing grant proposals. So probably about 60 to 70% of my time I write grant proposals. And these are for new products or new applications that we want to kind of go in the direction of. And then, a part of that is developing innovation networks, finding scientists that we can work with, finding other companies that want to collaborate with, and yeah, just bringing everything all together.
Nice. I mean, it's like being a researcher in some sense.
It kind of is. I'm still coming up with scientific ideas. I don't do it in the lab anymore. So that's probably the biggest difference for me was, taking a step out of the lab and working at a desk for the majority of my time. But I'm still working in science. I'm still coming up with scientific ideas that we can transfer into commercial realizations. And yeah, it's quite interesting.
Nice. Thanks.
Sure, yeah. The other part of my job is I've been coordinating the expansion of M Squared in Germany. So M Squared is a Scottish company based in the UK. And my role has been to coordinate our expansion, come up with new innovation ideas, and to build a team and an office and lab space, which is now actually coming to realization. So it's a super exciting time.
Nice.
So to get to your other questions, so I guess the first is, so why did I move to industry?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I've tried a couple of different things. After my PhD, I worked for a startup. So I got some funding from the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council in the UK to actually try to commercialize the technology that I developed in my PhD. So that was for a year. I got some great insights into how it works in a startup and how you would commercialize, like put a box around your laser and throw it down some stairs and hope that it still works. But I also just wasn't quite sure if I was willing to give up on an academic career just then. So I got another fellowship to go back into research for a bit. And then I probably spent the next sort of 4 years working in scientific research again. And then at some stage, I was just thinking to myself, I'm working with these enormous laser systems. Wouldn't it be cool to be working more on the application side of things, where it's being used in the real world? And actually, how I got to my job is I'd had a collaboration with M Squared whilst I was still in academia. And I just happened to bump into my now boss in Berlin. He was visiting Berlin once, and he said, "Hey, we're thinking about opening an office here. Are you interested in working for us?" And I just thought, okay, this kind of sounds like it's ticking a lot of boxes for me. Why don't I try it out? And so I took the plunge. I thought it was a little bit of a risk at the time, but actually it's turned out to be really awesome. I've learned so many new different things in the last 3 years. So yeah, that was my move to industry. Nice. And then the really difficult question to ask is the one good and one bad thing of industry and academia. I would say, I'll start with the bad in industry, and I would say that is, I no longer have the freedom to follow just some random thought that I have of that something, maybe that works, maybe that's something really interesting. Now I have to think, is that going to ultimately end up in a product that we can sell and generate revenue from? So I don't have quite the same freedoms in the directions that I want to go into. But then the opposite to that, the good side of working in industry is that I can see a product that I've come up the idea for that is being used in some amazing kind of application context. For example, in biomedical imaging, come up with new ideas for a microscope that we have, and then how that can be translated into real world applications like drug discovery. And being a part of that journey is just like awesome. So I'd say that's the good and the bad of industry. And yeah, so the good in academia, I guess it's really having that freedom. I do really miss that. The bad side of it is I always felt like I was shunted down one particular route, and then I was having to branch off in a few little niche areas, but really my direction was novel laser systems for different applications. Whereas now I work with quantum technologies, I work with microscopes, I work with chemical sensing devices, and I just have a lot more, I guess the breadth of the work that I'm doing is broader. So I hope that's a sufficient answer to the very difficult questions.
That's great, especially for like all the PhD students and postdocs who are listening. I mean, you're an example of like a fearless woman who just tried a lot of things that just maybe you like it or not, but just give it a try and you never know. I mean, at the beginning it was scary, but then it turned out to be amazing. So it's yeah, it's really a nice story. Thank you. Sure. And Francesca, you moved to Germany a few years ago. So you're now a leading scientist at the synchrotron. You lead the attosecond division, and you're also a full professor of physics, and you're also a mother in STEM. So how was it to basically change your life and move from Italy to Germany? And how did your life change when you become a mom?
Okay, so concerning the change from Italy to Germany, besides the weather and the food, of course, I have to say for me was a very big step, because until 2016 I was staff scientist at IFN CNR, the institute that Roberta is directing in Milano. And afterwards I was moving to Hamburg, where I got, as you say, this full professor position, and I was appointed also a leading scientist, which is like the equivalent of the research director in Italy. And this was a very big step in my career. And I have to say that it was also a tough decision at the beginning, because in Italy I had a permanent position. So this is also something that you typically try to get. Hardly, in most of the cases, very difficult to get a permanent position. So you feel pretty comfortable in that position. And then you have to decide to leave your country and go for another country, and also go for a very different position. So it was pretty challenging, but I thought, okay, I have to try. And so I decided to move. So I have to say the big change in my life was, of course, having not only going abroad, because I have to say that for me was quite not so difficult, because I was already in Hamburg before. I spent quite an extended amount of time there. So I knew the city, I knew the people. So for me, it was not so difficult to move. But the main difficulty at the beginning was to go directly for this big step. So all of a sudden to be on this high position. And in Germany, it's typical that you get many institutional responsibility with this position. So you have to step out of the lab. So it's a big change in the way I was working. And another aspect is that I immediately have noticed the difference in terms of women, a number of women in university compared to the environment I was used to, because actually the numbers that Donatella gave are not so bad if you compare to Germany, or at least compared to Hamburg. Where you could see, for instance, in the MIM faculty, and more specifically in physics, you have less than 10% in the top positions. And so I was one of the few women, and so I have to say at CNR I was used to have many more women in general as colleagues. So I was used to a different environment. So I was also immediately assigned several institutional duties, because you need a certain percentage of women in committees in representing them. So it's also one of the aspect, that we are only a few, so we are immediately booked for several things, because there are this quota that we need to fill. And so I had a lot of responsibilities, and the first year I was there, I was asked to go to Bonn, where we were defending the Cluster of Excellence, which is a big initiative with several institutions and like 40 PIs and 30 millions into play. And this was a very big responsibility assigned to me and only 2 other colleagues to go there and to defend the cluster. And this was very challenging, because I just arrived, and I had to understand everything, how things were working in Germany, and what was the best thing to do, and so on. I had very nice colleagues helping, and but this is also to tell one of the aspects. So if there are few women, then you are immediately assigned big responsibilities that you have to face, and it was a big change. And I thought, okay, let's do it. I mean, why why should I not do it? and at the end it was successful. So I think this is just an example that we can. Of course, we can face the same challenges as our male colleagues, so don't have to be afraid, and also to of course have these institutional responsibilities. And also, as a leading scientist, of course, you have to direct a relatively big group with several laboratories. So you have a ramp-up phase when you move in another place, where you have to build everything up, and this is also a big challenge. And on top of this, this was your second question, I became a mother at the same time. And this was an additional challenge, maybe the main challenge, I would say. This was drastically changing my way of working, and of course, I was becoming a mother quite late in my career, so there's also another aspect that sometimes I was so much involved in science in my work that I was, so to say, postponing this target.
Big step, yeah.
To say this step.
Big step.
So I became quite late in my career mother, but this is also, in any phase of your career, this is always a challenge to combine, of course, the fact of being a mother with a role that you have at different stages in science. So, and as a leading scientist and full professor, you need to be always there because you are responsible of many things, and all of a sudden you have to disappear because of the pregnancy and the birth of the child and so on, and the maternity leave. So of course this is a challenge to handle with, and I think this was, as you say, so you asked me the main challenges, so of course motherhood was one of the main challenges.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, no, I'm asking because in your case, becoming a mother was not a bottleneck of your career, was like in between, just a big step, but sometimes can be limiting. In the introduction, we have seen that sometimes people ask in the job interview, do you want to have kids? Do you want to have babies? And sometimes women don't get the position because of this. So that's something very sad that should end as soon as possible. So another thing that it's really, I think, really important to talk about is the concept of overrepresentation. So you were mentioning some positions which are targeted for women. And in Italian, we say quote rosa, in the sense that there are some slots which are dedicated to jobs for women, some job positions only for women. And I would like to ask Roberta, in this sense, what do you think about the concept of overrepresenting a category which is typically underrepresented? And is this, do you agree with this? Do you think this is really necessary? I personally think it is, but I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, well, let's say it is, but I would add, unfortunately, it is, because again, it shouldn't be. We should have, let's say, equal threshold for men and women to be recruited, but we need, and somehow numbers play against us, because at the very beginning, you have a reasonable representation of women, but already it's not 50%, as Donatella was showing us before. And when you go higher, it goes even worse, because when you have this step at the working level, not so much at the student level, but at the working level, and you have to accept uncertainty. Some women just give up because they want to be sure they can choose maternity. They want to be sure not to have to give up with the personal life. I mean, a man is not faced by this decision, never, not in our society, but women are. So at that point, the percentage of women tends to drop. And once you get to find a leading position for women, very often you have a very small percentage of women in the, let's say, pool of people where you have to choose from. So in this situation, I think that we need to have some mechanism of guarantee over representation, but it's really unfortunate that we need to have it. But that can be a way somehow to help the change in the society.
Yeah.
But we have to give a frame around boundary conditions where women feel they can go on simply on their capability, on their value, professional value, without having to bother about let's say, guaranteed numbers, guaranteed percentages. But in the present situation, in most countries, we still need them. But we have to work a lot since the very beginning. I've seen in the question and answers, there are some questions about the percentage. There is a question about the percentage of students. I don't have the numbers worldwide, but for sure in Europe, it's considered a big issue. And that's something we have, on the long term, that's the way to go. Have enough students undertaking their curriculum in STEM and promoting the percentage of women, helping them, creating, let's say, a supportive situation around them. And then we will no longer need over-representation. And that will be really the day we can say, okay, it's done.
Yeah, that's the dream, of course, when we have 50-50% and we're all set. But of course,
I would
right
say
now,
when we have random percent, sometimes it will be higher, sometimes it will be a little bit lower.
Yeah, let's say 50
we will no longer need to care about it, to be worried about it.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, 50-50 on average, because we are worldwide population is made like 49.6 and 50 point something, but it's, let's say 50 men and 50 women. So on average, I would say 50-50.
Large numbers, that should be the result, the final result.
Yeah, overall, I mean, of course, that's the dream. But the funny story when you talk about overrepresentation is that people question usually the expertise of women. If we want to guarantee, for example, at least 30% of over like 30% of female positions, and at least 30%, people say, you're assigning this position to women. Are you sure they're all experts on this? But nobody questions the 70% expertise of men, which is funny because, I mean, you never know. So I would say up to now, it's needed. Unfortunately, we're not at the stage of the dream to say, no, okay, now let's things go.
You know, once I saw a nice cartoon that was saying real parity will be reached when a non-competent woman will become the boss.
Yeah, that's yeah, indeed. Yeah, so regarding this, we have a big gap in between students, female students, and female, let's say, that reach really top level positions. So Gabrielle, can you tell us something about the so-called leaky pipeline? How can we fix this pipeline? And yeah, tell us what do you think about this?
Sure. Well, I think this is actually kind of related to Roberta's really awesome answer for this overrepresentation thing. And I would also say, in terms of describing the leaky pipeline, Donatella's data said that a lot more elegantly than I think I can. But basically, if you look at the career pipeline of women, you know, we have in science, you do have still not enough. We still need more women, but a larger percentage of women in undergraduate studying sciences. Then it starts to decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease. And as soon as you start getting to the point where, you know, perhaps you're in the postdoc level or like getting more and more senior after that, it's getting fewer and fewer and fewer. And this is what I mean by leaky pipeline. They're leaking out of the STEM career pipeline. And there are a lot of questions that fly around about this. Like, for example, are they leaving academic science because they're not getting permanent positions? I'm not sure that answers everything fully, because if that's the case, come and work with me. We have permanent positions. I would love to have more women in industry, but the numbers of women in industry are also super low. And I'm talking about women working in science in industry. I would love to have more people. I would love to have more women in my team working on the science. And yeah, so where are they going? Is this a case that our support frameworks for women are too weak? Are we telling women that there is no place for them in, you know, the higher echelons of scientific careers? And I actually saw there was a post on LinkedIn actually advertising this event, and the lady said it really succinctly, and I've seen this written before, and what she said was, you can't be what you can't see. So if you're saying you've got like one female full professor, director of an institute, you think, okay, well, I have to be exceptional to reach that goal. But if there are more of them, then you say, okay, yeah, there's still exceptional people. Obviously, to get to the stage where you're a director, yeah, you're exceptional. But there's more of them. You can be that person. And so I think, yeah, this is a combination of creating a better support framework for women and just promoting women. And I think those of us who are in positions where we're hiring people, we also need to think a little bit more outside of the box. If they've had a slightly different, non-traditional career path, that shouldn't matter. They bring different experiences to that. And all this boils down to is diversity. So diversity of experiences, diversity of background. And I think those of us that are in a position of hiring, we need to just look at things that are not necessarily filling in this crazy niche that we might have.
Yeah, so maybe look at some examples, like some mentors, before we were discussing about Samantha Cristoforetti really influenced a lot of female astronauts to subscribe, like to apply for and attend some career paths. So yeah, thanks. Thanks.
I just wanted to say one final thing.
Please.
It's actually a comment on something that Roberta said at the beginning, and that's that women need to behave like men to reach these positions of power. And then the really bad thing is society tells us if we're having these women with stereotypical masculine traits, they're seen as being aggressive. They're criticized for being aggressive. And it's like, we can't win. We try to be more like men, and then we get criticized for it. So I just think that we all need to have that. We all need to be mindful of this. And yeah, society has a lot to answer for.
Yeah. That's true. We will never get there if we need to like simulate something different from us. It's I totally agree. And Donatella, we discussed about the example of Samantha Cristoforetti, and I would like to hear from you about the concept of mentoring. So how important is to be a good mentor? And who was your mentor, your mentors in your career, and how did they maybe change your life, if you had one or more than one? But first of all, how important is mentoring for women and support women in science?
I think for everybody, having somebody that can help you, can support you, not only in terms of the competence, but also in terms of general support in your life, or it's important. And the mentor has this, needs to have this type of attitude, not only to be competent in the topic you're working on or you're doing research on, but to understand you in terms of which person you are, where are your soft skills, matters that needs to be improved, and help you in that case, but also let you go, because this is the important thing.
Mm.
Need to have to have the person to go by itself, to fly by itself. You cannot keep it always behind your around you. They need to do their own mistakes, and the mentor must be there to help you to come back and start again, because mistakes are normal, and if you learn more from mistakes than you learn from success.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I think somebody to help you to understand that, which is very difficult today, especially for the younger generation, that they need to be super always at the top, because otherwise they will not get a job, they will not get the nice position they want, or they cannot get something else, or the money. It's important to understand that this is not life, and this is not also the way you grow as a professional and as a person. You need to have a broader view, because the broader the view, the better you will be also as a scientist, because curiosity comes from having curiosity on many things, not only on one. And especially very often ideas coming from one area can be applied or can be modified or can be the starting point for another area of research. And if you don't have this, and if you don't learn this, you'll never grow, you'll never be a good researcher or good scientist.
Yeah. Francesca, what do you think about mentoring? How important is to be a good mentor? Do you have, I don't know, female PhD students or postdocs? Are you a mentor?
Yeah, so for me, mentoring is one of the key ways of, so to say, guiding the female scientists along their career, and also to keep them and not to leak them in the pipeline, as Gabrielle was mentioning. So actually in Hamburg, I'm Director of Equal Opportunities in the cluster. So I am taking care of trying not to leak too much and also to try to recruit and improve the numbers. And I'm part of a mentoring program where, as you say, as we mentioned, we need these role models. So we act as role models because we are in the top positions, and we are trying to show to the younger that indeed there's possibility to reach these top positions, and it's not an exception. And as mentors, so like the full professors, they are mentors, so they offer the mentoring all along the year to postdocs and PhD students. So typically you will mentor or advise a student or a postdoc who is not part of your group, because then you lose a little bit of a part of your, so you have to be completely outside the connections which may be related to work. So then you will be able to guide the person in a very objective way. And therefore, I was mentoring postdocs and PhD students from other groups, and I found it a very nice initiative. And I had a couple of postdocs who wanted actually to leave science, and at the end I was very happy to see that they decided to stay. They were successful in grant applications, and they actually continued in their career. So that was very effective. So that was like a direct proof that indeed mentoring could be very effective if you can really guide and strengthen the willing of the people to try at least to pursue a career. I'm talking about a career in academia, but of course I guess also for industry that would be very important as well. And concerning myself, I think I never had a real mentoring program that I attended, but I had very nice examples surrounding me. So I was very lucky for that, I think. For instance, when I was, that's in Milano, when basically I grew up as a scientist. So I would say I was working very closely with Caterina Wozzi, for instance. She worked at the Institute for Photonics and Nanotechnologies, and she was a very nice example for me. I mean, she was always ahead in the career with respect to me, and she was always showing great enthusiasm and the way you can achieve the goals despite all the difficulties, of course. And this is very nice. I think if you have an example ahead of you, then you are really motivated to try and to follow the example. So that's very effective. Roberta, she's here actually. She was my director and a woman. So it's also a very nice example. I mean, that works. If you see somebody, say, ahead in the career that is very successful and is achieving the results, they say, why can I not do it the same? No, so I mean that's very, very effective. You need role models. So that's my idea.
Yeah, actually, Caterina is here in the among
nice.
the attendees. So yeah, thanks for sharing this. I don't know, Caterina, if you wanna say something.
Well, I'd like to thank Francesca for these very nice words. And I think one of the things you're discussing about mentoring, it's really, I mean, I'm really proud. I think this is one of the nice things when you become a bit older in your career, when you see people that you have been somehow mentoring that get such huge results as Francesca did. Like you can be proud of this really. And yeah, I mean, thank you very much. And
I didn't know you were here, but
yeah, I mean that was the plan.
That was
so
my
plan.
The beauty of life.
I didn't expect that. I was showing the pop-up.
Yeah, she was not visible before.
I just added as a panelist, so if you want to comment on that, because that's the beauty of the life. I mean, I saw you on the attendees, so I was like, oh, Caterina is here, maybe she want to say something.
That's a bit unexpected, but I mean, it's a really interesting event. Thank you for organizing it.
Thanks, Caterina, for joining us. Okay. And so thanks also Francesca for sharing this with us. And Roberta, what do you think about mentoring?
Well, mentoring is really crucial and having good mentors is essential to grow. And as it has already been pointed out, mentoring is a very interactive process. You really need to work together with your students or young postdocs, and you have to support them, but without being invasive. You need to give them a lot of independence. You have to let them make mistakes and learn from mistakes. You have to help them to learn from mistakes. And you have also to help them to feel self-confident, to have consciousness of their limits on one side, but of their capabilities on the other side. And just make them feel at ease when they work, make them feel that it is normal to have challenges to face, help them facing them, feeling confident and just, let's say, always respect them and their capabilities and make them feel that they have their own value. They shouldn't feel shy, for example, in front of an external authority or something like that. I mean, we are all at the same level. Everybody's doing his or her own job, and it's just a question of experience. But I mean, you can, as it was in my first experience, okay, you receive a question from a Nobel Prize, you answer, and that's it. And you are somehow on the same level. I mean, of course, he got the Nobel Prize. I'm happy for him. It's wonderful, and that's it. I mean, and this is something you have to, and this is something I was taught by my mentors, and I'm really grateful to them, because they just always made me feel, I mean, able to do whatever, more or less whatever I wanted, provided I put the sufficient let's say, engagement and preparation and everything. But just self-confidence is something you have to teach to your, to give to your students and postdocs.
Okay, thank you. Before the last question, Gabrielle, do you want to add something on mentoring?
Sure, yeah. It's actually a topic that's very close to my heart, and it's been so nice to hear everybody else's, especially Francesca's, stories of her mentors. I actually established with a couple of other people a mentoring scheme through the Optical Society. We've just launched the pilot phase this year. But we hope to be in a year's time or so. I hope to make this available to more people. But the idea is to basically hone in on something that actually Francesca said about having a mentor who is not in your direct research group. For us, the idea was to have a mentor who is completely external to your organization, where you can come to and say, these bad things are happening, or I don't know how to deal with this situation. And you have somebody that's external to you who can give some advice. So I think mentoring is absolutely critical. I feel a little bit shortchanged that I never had a strong female mentor throughout my career. But I did have a lot of strong male mentors who were really my advocates. They were fighting for me. I still talk to them. They still offer me support whenever I need it. And that has been transformational for my career. But I did have a very strong role model in my elder sister. She's awesome. So she's a few years older than me. I saw her go away to Oxford University and study law. Coming from our background, this was kind of unheard of. We come from a very poor background. So for me, I was like, yeah, she's fighting. She's doing amazing things. And now, she doesn't take any nonsense from anyone. And I just find that so encouraging. And she's just someone just amazing to look up to. So having a role model is also critical.
Thanks. That's also a very nice story. Okay, now I think we have the very last, not question, but advice to give women and people to support women in STEM. So Donatella, since you have to leave, I would start from you. So what is an advice you would give to women in science and to everyone, let's say, to support women in science?
Well, in general, what I think is that I'm starting from Seneca. Seneca said that there is a moment when talent meets the opportunity and the occasion. And I think women should be wise enough to take advantage from the opportunity that may be knocking at, and they would have to look for, and good enough to make the most out of them. And this is, important, because often they lack the confidence or the self-assurance to go out of their comfort zone. And I think this is one way to go, is go out of your comfort zone.
Thanks, very nice.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting, so I will have to.
It's okay, yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks again for accepting our invitation and for
interesting conversation.
For your contribution. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
So, Gabrielle, what is your advice for women and for everyone to support women in science?
So I think for women scientists, seek out your people, seek out your support network. Your support network is going to be there throughout your career. And when things go bad, those are the people you can talk to. For those who are feeling unsure about going down a certain path, just take the chance. Don't think of it as so much as a risk, as was what I used to do. Just think of it as a chance. It's an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, and just go for it. And if you ever need to reach out to somebody that maybe don't know very well, but maybe somebody who talks a lot like me, always, you're very welcome to reach out and we can talk.
Thanks a lot. Francesca, what is your advice for women in science?
Yes, my advice is, of course, first of all, to try to believe in yourself, which is very important, and follow your passion, no matter what. This is very important because this is what typically men do, but actually we should do the same. So if you have a passion, and you should follow this passion, and do not question yourself too much, because this is what we typically do. And also on top, I think the very important thing is also to for a career in science is to try to get visibility. So don't be shy, try to create your network, try to communicate, to be visible. That's very important, that's key. And also, again, this is something that I noticed women in general do much less compared to men. And this is creating a lot of difficulties in getting the acknowledgement of your results. And so networking, visibility, it's very important. And as we mentioned, of course, try to seek or to reach somebody, your role models, your mentors, because this is key for pushing you along your career. Yeah, and don't be scared about combining family and work, because this is really tough. I mean, that's certainly super tough. Nobody can say that it's not the truth, but it's possible. I mean, that many of us are doing this, and so that should not be a limit.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think all the PhD students and the postdocs are really appreciating the advice from you, wise woman in science. Roberta, the last one. What is your advice for women in science?
I would say feel adequate, follow your way, be brave, be visible, as Francesca was saying. Don't be shy, just go ahead. You can make it, and everybody will be happy to see you succeeding in your way. So just go ahead and feel self-confident, follow your passion, then go on. I mean, the world is there for you, and science is there for you.
Thank you so much.
And don't be afraid to ask help whenever you need it, to ask support from your role models or mentors. Just conquer the world that is there for you.
Yeah, thanks. I would like to thank you all once again. This was a very nice afternoon, one of the best afternoons I've had in probably a year. So it was very interesting to discuss about this, all these different topics. And thank you so much again for joining us. If you have questions, I think you can use the Q&A box. If not, I would say bye to you all and to our speakers, and thanks again.
So there are no questions, Chiara. So
But there is actually one
There
question.
is one question, but
was
I
one
think
question.
I think
I don't know if
Donatella
we
left.
have the answer. That's the point.
We don't really, sorry, Nomusa, we don't really have data from, let's say, global data from girls attending STEM courses. Sorry about that, but Donatella could only show data from Italy and Europe in general. So, but maybe in the next webinar, we can do a little bit more research on that and try to show also global data from all over the world.
In general, maybe we could add that I think this is a common effort in all the countries to try to, as also Roberta, I think, was mentioning, to improve the number of women, but so to say, girls from the schools following the career in STEM. So there are several initiatives in general to bring this confidence in the science topic to the girls, and I think in Milano, for instance, we had several outreaching program, including the Photonics for All, in which we were going to the schools to show some kids for doing experiments in photonics, very simple, but to encourage the girls on their competences, I mean, that they were able to carry these experiments, for instance, so to don't be shy, again, what we were saying, be confident, don't be shy, already at a very basic level. And so I think this is something that needs to be said in general, that there is a strong effort all over Europe to improve this since the very early stages of the education.
I think especially in the last years, I have the perception things are really moving forward in this direction, and it's a good feeling. So
one thing I actually found really sad, I was reading a study from a couple of years ago, and it says that girls already at the age of 6 think that they're not as smart as boys. So
yeah, because that's,
I know I was complaining about society previously, but we're doing our girls a really big disservice. Like, of course we're smarter than boys.
yeah, actually this quote from this TED talk is actually telling this. I mean, this is what has been subconsciously communicated to hundreds of millions of boys and girls all over the world, and people get convinced about this. And they learn they're weak, they learn they usually cry, while boys are strong and they are better, and they can play with like engineering toys and stuff like that, which is a bias. I mean,
and of course they want to be princesses while their male friend will be an astronaut. So
yeah, indeed. I mean, it's a bias that should just end. And yeah, thanks again. There is a comment, I think, on the Q&A, not an answer, but Antonio says, very nice webinar, great initiative. And thanks, Antonio. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone for attending. It was very interesting. And thank you again.
Thanks, Chiara, for being a great moderator.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you for organizing, and thank you for moderating so well. You're really great.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for accepting the invitation. I mean, I think you are wise women.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be on a panel with you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.